July 9th in the year of our Lord, 2022 started off as a day like any other for Larry Doyle Sanders of Atwood. Where the hell is Atwood, you ask? According to Google Maps, Atwood is a town of 74 residents in southeast Oklahoma, just down the road from the Center Cross Cowboy Church, perhaps best known for its rustic homes. Sanders' buddy Jimmy Glenn Knighten lived in nearby Allen, a town of 805 residents that features these buildings. And in case you haven't heard, back in 2004, the nearby town of Slaughterville got embroiled in a kerfuffle with PETA when the animal rights group tried to have the town's name changed to Veggieville. Naturally, Slaughterville residents and town administrator Marsha Blair weren't having a bar of it.
We do not intend to change the name.
On July 9th, 2022, Larry Sanders and Jimmy Knighten set out for a day of noodling on the South Canadian River. What the hell is noodling, you ask? It's the absurd art of shoving your hands into slimy underwater holes, hoping a catfish will chomp down so that you can wrangle the beast to the surface. Before you rush out to give noodling a try, you should know that hand fishing isn't for the faint of heart. Catfish can be extremely aggressive and extremely large, weighing up to 100 pounds, and catfish aren't the only critters that dwell in these murky voids. Unlucky noodlers in the hot pursuit of catfish have been known to find snapping turtles, venomous snakes, and alligators instead. If you figured only an intrepid few would be willing to risk life and limb to yank giant whiskered river monsters out of slimy underwater crevices, well, you'd be wrong. Even Gordon Ramsay has given it a go. What do you need to know about the Canadian River for this story to make sense? Probably nothing, but here's some stuff I found online. Not to be confused with the North Canadian River, which is also in the United States, the South Canadian River stretches 1,026 miles from Colorado to Oklahoma. According to the Encyclopedia of Oklahoma History and Culture, water is only intermittently present in parts, and there's a bit of quicksand.
What is it that's not exactly water, and it ain't exactly earth? Quicksand!
And even though the Canadian River didn't make Catfish Conference's top 10 list of trophy catfish destinations, areas of the river that aren't dried up or full of quicksand are evidently pretty good places to give noodling a go. Before they reached their destination on that cursed day, Sanders and Knighten stopped by a convenience store to grab a six-pack, because nothing goes better with hand fishing than beer, obviously. A witness who saw them at the store said Sanders seemed happy, bragging that buddy Knighten had offered him a job. When they reached the river, Knighten took a phone call. As he walked away, he occasionally glanced back over his shoulder, which struck Sanders as suspicious. While pondering Knighten's sketchy phone etiquette, Sanders noticed American Indian carvings in the surrounding rocks. To be honest, I'm not sure what he meant. Had indigenous art been chiseled into the rockery? Were small wooden totem poles scattered across the stones like Easter eggs? We'll probably never know what Sanders saw. But given the proliferation of runestones of dubious origin throughout Oklahoma, it's possible he came across a bit of Scandinavian graffiti. I mean, who among us hasn't wondered if Vikings voyaged to this remote part of landlocked America 1,000 years ago, leaving behind a trail of runestones? The next thing Sanders noticed was a tin horn that seemed out of place. What the hell is a tin horn, you ask? Based on a quick search of products manufactured by an Oklahoma outfit called Tin Horns R Us, they're probably drainage pipes. I'm just spitballing here, but it's possible someone brought a tin horn to the river intending to sink it into the water to lure catfish, which are known to spawn in hollow logs and assorted crevices.
We're probing holes. Probing
holes. Oh, dude, there's a big old hole.
Or maybe not. What the hell do I know about either tin horns or spawning catfish? In the distance, a National Guardsman in military fatigues allegedly appeared out of nowhere, and Knighten started howling into the tin horn. Moments later, a 12-foot-tall Sasquatch supposedly sauntered over to the water's edge and began dipping his toes in the river. Why was Bigfoot casually testing the water like he was about to take a bath? We'll probably never know. Before long, two more beasts purportedly emerged from the forest. One was dark red, the other was brown, and Sanders' smooth brain began connecting non-existent dots. The sketchy phone call, the curious howling into the tin horn ritual, the mysterious National Guardsman, the fearsome Sasquatches. Taken together, these imaginary incidents clearly meant Knighten was orchestrating a Sasquatch sacrifice.
Sometime during that period of time, Mr. Sanders believed that Jimmy Knighten had summoned Bigfoot to come and do harm to him.
Fearing he was about to be drowned and his body floated downriver where Bigfoot waited to eat him, Sanders picked up a willow branch and began smacking Knighten with it. A brawl broke out between the two, which culminated in Sanders grabbing Knighten by the neck, not letting go until Knighten turned blue. To Sanders' deranged mind, it was kill or be killed. If Sanders didn't suffocate Knighten, who was plotting to sacrifice him to Bigfoot, Sanders would surely be served up for dinner. After the monstrous deed was done, Sanders raised his hands in victory, proclaiming to the distant army of Big Feet,
"Weak as evil."
He then hopped in Knighten's pickup truck and drove back to Knighten's house, shirtless. Sanders proudly informed his daughter, who happened to be dating Knighten's son, that by crushing Knighten, Sanders had become leader of the Bigfoots and needed to return to headquarters. When the cops arrived, Sanders was still enthusiastically confessing to anyone who would listen, and he even sketched a map pinpointing the location of Knighten's body. In a plot twist no one saw coming, the sheriff noted.
Sanders appeared to be under the influence of something.
At his trial, and against his lawyer's advice, Sanders took the stand, doubling down on every batshit crazy detail. At this point, you're probably wondering if Sanders was insane, and I wouldn't blame you.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
But even though an irrational fear of being eaten by Bigfoot is crazy, it's insufficient to establish insanity under Oklahoma law.
Interestingly enough, the defense did not go for the insanity defense. The local district attorney tells me that that's because doctors on both sides of the case agreed that Sanders does know right from wrong.
Sanders not only knew what he was doing, he knew it was illegal. Instead of pleading insanity, Sanders' attorney Larry Belcerac went with stand your ground. Belcerac argued that it was justifiable in self-defense to strangle a guy who'd summoned Bigfoot. Spoiler alert, the judge didn't buy it.
That's not usually how self-defense works.
So insanity and stand your ground were dead in the water. But Sanders still had one more card up his sleeve, his severe multi-decade-long drug addiction. Sanders had evidently smoked cannabis daily since high school. He'd been using meth 2-3 times per week for years, and he'd even confessed to a cop,
"I usually use a little meth to get myself going in the mornings."
Given his 30-plus year history of drug use, it's fair to ask whether Sanders' brain was chemically enhanced on the day of the murder. On the facts, it's unclear whether Sanders was high that day. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation failed to test him for intoxicant use after his arrest. But his Bigfoot rhetoric was evidently more pronounced when he was under the influence of meth. A forensic psychiatrist diagnosed Sanders as bipolar, describing his belief in Bigfoot as delusional, and concluded he'd experienced paranoia and hallucinations due to a methamphetamine-induced psychotic disorder. Unfortunately for Sanders, in the absence of clear proof he was high, his drug-induced psychosis defense failed. In the least surprising plot twist ever, Sanders was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
The Oklahoma man who claimed his friend tried to have Bigfoot eat him has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Assistant DA Tara Portillo had the final word on the matter.
There was a monster in the woods that day, but it wasn't Bigfoot. It was Larry Sanders.
As for Bigfoot, he remains at large. Moral of the story, don't do meth. But if you're going to do meth, which you obviously shouldn't, don't go noodling with idiots who think Bigfoot could attempt to eat them. Thanks for watching. YouTube thinks you'll like this video too. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.